to a lot of these models, I think one of the best examples to show you how this stuff tends to work is, again, if you go to ChatGPT right now, you can ask it a pretty hilarious question, okay? So for instance, If you go to ChatGPT and ask, is there a seahorse emoji? There really isn't a seahorse.
I don't care about this.
It was 7 a.m. and I was on a run and I got a call from my mom and she said, you got to turn on the TV. There are planes flying in buildings. It's complete chaos. All I can remember was just looking at the TV set in complete shock. We couldn't figure out in the beginning what was happening, whether or not it was an actual terrorist attack, whether it was an accident. But as more planes were flying into buildings, crashing into the Pentagon, it became clear that the U.S. was under attack.
There we go. We're going to see what we can do. We're going to do our best. This is only a few weeks after both of us retired after 20 years of service. But still in our hearts, we're firefighters.
And nothing like this had ever happened on American soil. And the scale was absolutely unprecedented. And so you've got this sense of fear, confusion and vulnerability, not only in New York, but all over the country.
Every American was scared for their own safety at that point, because it wasn't clear whether or not there were going to be more planes flying into buildings, whether or not there was going to be some use of biological weapons.
The terrorists did exactly what they wanted to do, and that was to create terror. And you've got to remember, those attacks happened right in the heart of the financial district of New York, which some people regard as basically the capital of the world. And that world changed in an instant when those planes hit.
There's another plane coming, and all you hear was this rumbling. People was crying. People was jumping out the window. They was waving, trying to say, help me. You see their arms, and then you saw the man jump down, and everybody was jumping. It was crazy.
I remember one of my family members said that she could see a man and a woman holding hands, jumping out of the building. She could even see his tie.
You haven't lived.
Unbelievable. I didn't think something like this could happen, especially in New York. I'm sorry for all the people that lost their lives there today. It's very sad.
It makes you wonder what our intelligence community is doing. To have something like this happen. How can this happen?
What do you think it'll do for the psyche of New Yorkers and the psyche of America too?
I think it's more important the psyche of America than the psyche of New York, because this is world-reaching. It's not just the city; it's around the world. It's gonna. I don't think anything will ever be the same again.
Americans have many questions tonight. Americans are asking, who attacked our country?
An atrocity which America insists tonight will soon be avenged.
The evidence we have gathered all points to a collection of loosely affiliated terrorist organizations known as Al-Qaeda.
Bush agreed that the U.S. needed to invade Afghanistan, that there was no doubt about this. But what was also put on the table was to invade Iraq.
So this is what the neocons do. They look at 9/11 and they go, great, we can use this as an opportunity to get what we want done.
The United States of America will not permit the world's most dangerous regimes to threaten us with the world's most destructive weapons.
It turns out we were all wrong, probably, in my judgment. And that is most disturbing.
You know, why were you manipulating intelligence? Why were you exaggerating the threat? Is this part of a broader strategy to reshape the Middle East? Did you lie about WMDs to get your way?
And I think they adopted a lot of information that was at the time viewed as very weak, and they viewed it as fact.
The terrorists know that the outcome in the war on terror will depend on the outcome in Iraq. So to protect our citizens, the free world must succeed in Iraq.
The public are going to trust what their governments tell them, and their governments have also got to create this atmosphere of suspicion.
$1,500 more G. I don't want to watch this. It's kind of depressing. I'm just going to watch for something new. Maybe something video game related, huh? Ooh, the aftermath of pirate software.
So if you weren't present on the internet about 3 to 4 months ago, you probably didn't.
Yeah, pirate got cancelled,
the
huh?
biggest spectacle of self-sabotage and meltdown of someone's career on the internet. Like, I'm talking the biggest whip.
No, I think he's probably
seen.
fine.
Like,
I think he's probably fine.
1G's Molotov incident. Worse than losing Midwinter Mirage with an AWP because you couldn't stop shaking like a grandma with Parkinson's. Bit of a long comparison there, but this situation cannot be underestimated. Especially with the fact it could have all been solved or at least minimized by the uttering of 2 words. But anyway, if you don't know, I'm talking about the situation with Pirate Software or Jason Thor Hall. Someone that initially grew in popularity around 2022 due to his success on platforms like YouTube Shorts. Something that genuinely perplexed people at the time due to how aggressively YouTube was serving up his content. Like, even I was affected when I did use YouTube Shorts. But I've moved on to greener pastures. I'm now enjoying my counterfeit live leak content on Instagram Reels. But he gained a large audience partially due to these shorts, because not only could you learn things from them like hotkeys, I triple doggy donkey dare you to press Ctrl Alt Shift Windows T. I bet you won't, you little bitch. But he also encouraged you to do things like make games. From the perspective of someone that supposedly had years of experience from making his own games, and supposedly working in the industry at places like Blizzard. But he wasn't to let you know that he's very secret.
When I went to Blizzard, I did that for Blizzard. Blizzard. I was in 7 years, yeah. Blizzard. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. The red team specialist for Blizzard Entertainment. And Blizzard.
But he built his platform from there. there. Most people liked his character, and he genuinely inspired people to start making their own games. You can't take that away from him. But not only were people watching his shorts, the success also leaked onto his long-form content, and then later his streaming career, where he would usually average upwards of 10,000 viewers per stream, and even winning the Best Software and Game Development Streamer Award in 2023, and his popularity only grew from there. You could say at this point Pirate Software was at the tippy top. Of his
Aw, you took my fucking good trees, you asshole. I'm farming this area, you go away. This is my area. I hate you. Whoa, these things like spawned on me, crazy.
career before it all seemingly went so very, very wrong.
So very, very
One
wrong.
of the most liked influencers to one of the most hated in a short amount of time, primarily due to his own ego, and the fact he will vehemently defend any hill he chooses to die on, commonly spreading the rhetoric that everyone else is the problem and not him, even if without a doubt he has been proven to be wrong.
I'll admit when I'm wrong, when I feel that I'm wrong. But if I don't feel that I'm wrong and you do, that doesn't mean
I
I
feel
owe
you're
you an
wrong.
apology, right? Just because you're upset doesn't mean I owe you an apology. And that's something that a lot of
My
people
God,
don't
I
seem
can't
to
stand nerds like this.
This is
Shut
what
the
people
fuck
to
up.
call him arrogant, to a liar, to a narcissist, to even a lol cow at this point. And just all around, people no longer trust the words that come out of his mouth.
Yep.
And what makes it worse is even if he still went down this path of never admitting he was wrong, I think he would have probably gotten away with it and have been probably fine if he just didn't respond to the people criticizing him the way he did. Because as a content creator with the backlash, he had three choices he could have made. He could have sincerely apologized, which, to be fair, with Pirate Software, you have a better chance of betting your entire life savings on green at a roulette table and winning. Or you could take the chaotic neutral approach and just ignore everything, don't speak about it, and hopefully it will all eventually blow over. It won't entirely blow over, but the less you feed a fire, the less fuel it has. Then we have arguably the worst option, which Pirate Software chose, which is responding to most of your critics directly, affirming them you are right and they are wrong, essentially doubling down and in some cases tripling down, even when in some cases it has been proven you were in the wrong, and refusing to communicate.
Ever notice they're all like a bunch of angry 40-year-old dudes? I'm no different.
You. In one instance, saying content creators giving their takes on this are being reported to Twitch for fueling the harassment, but in general, just actively responding to criticism in a hostile way just keeps fueling the fire and gives people more of a reason to troll you. I think at one point he even had a ban counter on his live stream, showing the amount of people that had been banned in that stream alone, in some cases for just mentioning the events that were happening around him. And someone also speedran being banned in his chat. I think if he didn't do things this way, the drama would have come and went, and he would have had an infinitely easier path to redeem his online career. But some people did take it too far, to be honest, allegedly doxing him, sending death threats, and some even made fun of one of his ferrets dying. However, his reputation
Of
didn't
course
just
they did.
free fall overnight. There were multiple footnotes that led up to this. First, it started with the World of Warcraft situation, which happened in January of 2025. Yes, for those smart asses out there, if we went chronologically, it would be the Stop Killing Games situation. But at the time when he made that initial comment about that movement, nobody really had a problem with it or even questioned it. And if they did, they wouldn't be noticed, as the vast majority did not have any reason yet to doubt Pirate Software. It was only after things like the WoW drama and the responses from Ross from Stop Killing Games and Moist Critical that people started to genuinely question Pirate Software and his overall character. But anyway, fuck you. Classic World of Warcraft, that game where that one guy defecated in his pants playing the game.
Hold on, I've got to go.
Damn it! I
Ugh.
forgot to make a health stone.
Back in early
Forgot to make a
2025,
Hearthstone.
Classic WoW was mainly popping off in the streaming space again, down to a content creation guild called OnlyFans, comprised of many other streamers and content creators, and they were doing hardcore Classic WoW, where if you die you have to start all over again from level 1, and it takes a while to get back to the goal of max level, where the game actually starts. And Pirate Software was a part of the aforementioned content guild and claimed to be a proficient mage on top of allegedly having experience working on the game when he worked at Blizzard. However, when a group of OnlyFans members were doing a dungeon and liquid feces hit the fan, and the team pulled a mob they shouldn't have, and the party could not handle the spit roast gangbang that was about to happen, the call was made to retreat and to exit the dungeon. And Pirate Software proceeds to haul ass towards the exit, not really helping his team when they tried to recover, and wasting his mana along the way, and then complaining he had no mana to help when his teammate called him out. And it was also alleged he had items that would restore his mana so he could help. He then left the dungeon ahead of others, 2 people died, and members of the team expressed their frustration towards Pirate, of which when confronted he left the call, something he would do again later on, when they all came together with a group leader to kind of sort it out, and when the other guys had their time to speak, he just left.
Is what makes us so mad.
There's no zero accountability, dude. Everyone can do something better. But when you open up and you yell over another person
can
like
I
you were doing,
speak?
Nah, I'm good.
You joined the call? See, like he's so egoistically.
People also began looking at previous gameplay where he apparently did the same thing, on top of being a dick to other less experienced players like the streamer Lakari. In the aftermath, people assigned him the name Roach because he roached out the dungeon, and he also proceeded to ban anyone in his Twitch chat discussing the event. He made a statement saying everyone misplayed, not just him, and he was receiving a bunch of harassment for this. He later insinuated anyone trolling him through the in-game message system may potentially get banned because he has connections from his time at Blizzard. He called out other content creators for calling him out, saying they were cannibalizing him for content, and that he was documenting the people doing it, and reports were being made to Twitch. He started to delete and alter his clips so popular pages like Livestream Fails couldn't criticize him. He then got kicked by the content creator guild OnlyFans, of which he responded to very poorly as well, speaking bad about the guild, which just added more fuel to the fire at this point.
Because they want it to be a double down, a triple down, a quadruple down. They want to have a villain. They want to have an enemy. They want to fight that shit into the ground. They want to send death threats to people over it. Because they're goddamn insane. Because this guild has turned into a content guild built on hate, not a content
That's what
guild
they
built on
are.
experiences. Because they're freaking monsters, dude.
Hot off the heels of that situation, a game developer made a meme saying they would implement Pirate Software in their game with sound effects and all as a roach, of which they provided a video, but this was an offline build. It wasn't actually in the game. And when Pirate Software got wind of this, he DMCA'd the whole game, claiming he was actually in the game, of which he wasn't, meaning it was a fraudulent takedown. Pirate threatened them with further litigation when they countered the claim, even saying he was going to sue them and they would lose.
So I filed a DMCA claim, and he has now filed a counterclaim against me. We're going to take you to court. You're going to lose. You cannot use somebody's likeness or voice in any way inside of your games without their permission.
A lawyer that caught wind of it defended the game dev and noticed the lawyer that Pirate was waving around called Kronos, who was also one of his mods, allegedly couldn't even represent Pirate because he was from the UK and there were questions if he even practiced law. And that's pretty much it for the WoW situation. It was one of the longest controversies, and I think personally the one that started the erosion of his reputation. Yes, it started over something that happened in a game, but it was more Pirate's reaction to criticism which made people more cautious of him, his character, and just overall questioning everything about him. And fucking hell did they question everything. As the next situation in the same month as the WoW
Yeah, you don't want to piss these people off. I don't care that they exist.
Looking at his gameplay of certain puzzle games like Outer Wilds and Animal Well. And despite being heavily against spoiling or needing guides to complete these games and getting assistance from his chat, some people theorized he was actually cheating, looking up guides on his phone every time he got stuck. The main evidence being every time he did struggle a little, he would suddenly out of nowhere get the answer to the puzzle.
Wait a minute. I think I just solved it.
And this included some puzzles where you would need knowledge beforehand, or were just really difficult, like in Animal Well. And sometimes he could be seen looking down at what people assumed was his phone. Now with this situation, in my opinion, I don't think it really mattered. If he did cheat, I guess he just ruined the game for himself just to make himself look smart. Which if true, is on the same level as saying you actually have a girlfriend, she just goes to another school, in a different country, in a completely different
Damn it, I had that. I had a girlfriend in a different school in a different country. It was so annoying. Then I went to visit her for 3 weeks. It sounds crazy, but no, I told the Paris story recently. I had a girlfriend in a different town in a different country. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It wasn't fun.
Stop Killing Games is a movement where basically consumers actually own the games they buy. And in some capacity, if the game's owners or servers ever shut down, that game will still be somewhat functional. And people will still be able to play it because, you know, they bought that game, they should fully own it. But instead with games like The Crew, when their servers shut down, nobody could play it anymore. So this movement was created to put the ownership back into consumers' hands, and mainly surrounded the European version of it, and the spokesperson for it was Ross or Accused Farms. Pirate Software, when he heard about this movement before any drama surrounded him, basically liquid shat all over both Ross and the movement, making assumptions, misinterpreting the movement, and just overall speaking poorly about it.
It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to.
However, nothing really happened till after everything happened with things like the WoW drama. Ross responded basically correcting everything he said. Pirate heard this and in usual fashion, despite being proven wrong, stuck to his opinion and still spread misinformation and his own opinion on the movement, and refused to speak to Ross when he reached out or anyone trying to actually educate him on the subject of the movement. Then Moist Critical got involved, did his video on the situation, and it blew up even more. A lot more people were criticizing Pirate, and he still did not back down or admit he was in the wrong. But he did apologize to Ross for some of the words he used towards him. However, unironically, with all the attention this situation got, it quickly turned from Pirate Software killing the movement early game to actually saving it and it receiving all the signatures it needed with all the publicity happening. And Pirate still to this day refuses to admit he was wrong about the movement. And at this point, the hate for Pirate had hit its peak. Even Meat Canyon did a video about him. And then what quickly followed was the controversy where people questioned if he was the seasoned game developer he claimed he was. People combed through his work history, not really finding anything to do with game development. Some assumed he was a Nepo baby because his father worked for Blizzard and was very influential there. Pirate himself did admit previously that when he was a teen, he did get a job due to nepotism, but that's the only time he admitted it.
My first job I got through nepotism, 100%. My dad worked at Blizzard for 23 years. He worked at Blizzard for 23 years, so I got a job there in 2004.
And people began deconstructing the games he had made, like Heartbound. Specifically, people like Coding Jesus looked at his code and basically said this is not what you would expect from someone like Pirate Software with the credentials he has. Some noticed it was unoptimized in places, which Pirate did respond to, saying it was so optimized it could run on a smart fridge, which was quickly disproven because the fridge was used more like a monitor, not the actual component running the game. And some criticized the fact that his game has taken years to come out and has been pushed back multiple times. and there have been straight up months without any updates, or updates that were severely lacking, and during that time he was playing games instead of working on said game. But that was where we were 3 months ago. Obviously that was the short version of most of the events. In my other video I go into more detail, but there are a plethora of other videos covering the same topic. And all of this could have been easily minimized if at any point he swallowed his ego and just uttered the words, "My bad." But he didn't, and chose to go down with his ship that was his ego. And unfortunately he has somewhat lost his platform because of that. But yeah, it's been 3 months and the internet has pretty much moved on from Pirate. But I just wanted to look at the aftermath of everything and go into what has been happening since.
I saw this woman breastfeeding her child in a non-optimal way, so being the kind man I am, I showed her how to do it correctly.
Well, as said before, Pirate lost a lot of his audience. On his YouTube channel, this equated to losing over 570,000 subscribers since January 2025, where he used to sit at 2,660,000 subs. He now, as of this video, sits at 2,090,000. And to be honest, I can't think of another case where someone has lost more than 500,000 subscribers in 10 months. But he still sits at 2 million subscribers, which is impressive, but he is actively bleeding around 50,000 subscribers per month. And his viewership on his latest videos have seen a decrease as well, but to be honest, he also doesn't upload as much. On Twitch, where he streams semi-regularly, he lost around 200,000 followers, and his average viewers per stream went from the ballpark of 10,000 to 2,000, which is still good, and he's still in the top percentile of streamers, but admittedly it is quite the dip. Also, unfortunately, people do still show up in his comments and his Twitch streams to troll him, despite the majority of the internet forgetting about the situation, but he still does have somewhat of a platform. If we were to look on the bright side of this, he has more of a tight-knit community more than ever now, because there are people that still stuck around despite everything that happened and are still supporting Pirate, which is a small win for him. He still does his educational and somewhat uplifting shorts based on his experiences, which understandably people are more skeptical after what happened.
I lived out of my car for about a year when I was much younger because I was a dumbass with my finances.
By the way, every question that he gets asked, and it's blatantly visible in the shorts, he has live experience of this. Oh, Pirate Software, I'm a recovering heroin addict. Got any tips? Well, when I was younger, I also...
In regards to Stop Killing Games, which he was very much against, once again, it reached over its signature goal, partially thanks to the drama that surrounded Pirate, and the movement changed its goal to verifying the authenticity of the signatures so that it could properly pass. Finding that 97% out of the 1,448,000 signatures were valid, meaning it did successfully pass and would need to be addressed in some capacity by the EU. More recently, there is apparently a UK Parliament debate scheduled for November 3rd, 2025, and in multiple other countries similar things are occurring and related movements are being created in countries outside of Europe. So basically the petition passed and it is finally being discussed by governments. And Ross of Accused Farms, who was heavily pushing for this movement, is taking a much-needed rest and talking about going back to his normal content, like his Freeman's Mind series, which he started 12 years ago. Going back to Pirate Software, people were still questioning if he actually was
Pirate
the
Software
person
is
he
Ash's
said
a
he was,
creation
specifically
streamer.
YouTubers like Quinthios, who basically turned into more Pegasus for a moment when it came to pirate content. To be honest, he probably did take a page out of Pegasus's book. However, the main question was if Pirate Software really was this great game dev that wasn't a Nepo baby and built himself up not on the back of his own father. Well, through Quinthios, a past Blizzard employee that worked with Pirate and also lived with him, heard about the situation and came out with their experience with him. She showed proof that she worked with Pirate, showing a Blizzard yearbook of sorts from 2013, and to be honest, she didn't have the best of things to say about Pirate. And just keep in mind, she is recounting a lot of this from when it happened 10 years ago. She firstly claimed when he did work at Blizzard in her area, he was very charismatic and got along with people, but it was very difficult to get him to work.
Problem. Don't get me wrong. He's very charismatic. He is easy to get along with socially. However, he was very neglectful of actual work. He was hard to rein in. He was hard to get to focus on anything important. Like, he wanted to do what he wanted to do. And it wasn't like he was a jerk about it. Like, I don't want to misconstrue that at all. I'm sure everybody has seen his streams. Like, he pulls off the personality, you know? Like, he's nice to his coworkers.
And in one instance, he was given work and he just idled in the client and browsed Reddit.
He would just kind of create a character and idle in the
I can't
client and
imagine
read Reddit.
anybody being this fucking critical
He sat
about
in front of
me,
and I was assigning
and I don't
tasks.
want it.
So not
And
only
I'm
did I see
sympathetic
what
to
he
him.
was not doing, I saw
These weird people focusing on me this much would make me so angry.
For his work, but just browsed Reddit on it.
He requested a third display.
Who cares if he browses Reddit? What the fuck? You're the one talking about him browsing Reddit. That's not a discredit to him. It's a discredit to you.
Correct him on his behavior because
Correct him for surfing Reddit?
How many times they escalated it to upper management.
I'm sorry, I'm getting off it, man. I'm sorry he went to Reddit. I'm sorry he surfed Reddit when he was at work. Sorry.
Your skill has increased.
Jesus fucking Christ.
What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my review after 100% for The Outer Worlds 2. A game that I think makes huge improvements from the original title, while also being a step back in one or two areas that we'll obviously deep dive over the course of this review.
Your skill has
before we get
increased.
into all that, to get my usual stuff out of the way, I review games after 100% all the time to set me apart from other reviewers on the platform. And while that does include the achievements, it also includes a lot more than that. There's a link below covering everything I go over, and my Steam profile is public and linked below as well. Though in the case of The Outer Worlds 2, a couple extra things to mention. This review is going live just before the start of the early access from the premium edition, which is of course possible because I got a review key from Xbox in order to do that. It's also important to me that I tell you that previously, earlier in October actually, I went and visited Obsidian's headquarters and played the game about 10 hours there on top of all of this in order to bring a preview that went out earlier this month. So while I spent about 110 hours with this on my own time, there is some extra time there from playing specifically at Obsidian's headquarters, and then I actually spent a little extra time with the demo prologue that they sent out as well. So in total, like 120, 125 hours, give or take. And then last thing I want
I
to
start
mention before we
keeping
get rolling
gems here.
is a couple of achievements that are a bit wonky, but seem to work mostly in your favor. The first one is a collectible achievement from the early area of the game called Paradise Island. There's a quest you get to collect some magazines once you find the first one, and that achievement works, but you have to have all 10 of the magazines in your inventory at the same time, and that's important because as part of the quest, once you get half of them, 5, you can turn them into the quest giver, and if you do that, the achievement won't work. You have to wait until you have all of them to turn them in. There is another
Oh, he stumbled on that one
collecting all
and lost the
of these, like,
save.
little baseball cards, toss ball or pitch ball.
He's
that
got a
you're
save
supposed to
system.
collect 100 of them for the
I
achievement.
respect
That
this
achievement
man.
popped, I only had like 90
He's
of
not
them.
an idiot.
Not really sure why, I just figured I'd mention it. And then there is one last achievement for opening up all of the game's rifts, which we'll get into. But these are these little points of interest that you can interact with and usually get special items from once you get to a point in the story. And there is an achievement for opening all of them. I initially thought this achievement just wasn't working at all because I couldn't get it to unlock. But then in like my third or fourth playthrough, it unlocked randomly when I had not actually unlocked all of them in that playthrough. And it was an older one that I had unlocked several times previously. So it wasn't even like a cumulative thing between playthroughs. So not exactly sure what's wrong with that one. So while they are all obtainable, I just wanted to mention that some are behaving a bit strangely. Otherwise, let's actually dive into the game itself. So as I mentioned, I think this game is a huge improvement over the original. But given that the original was a smaller range-in experience constrained by things like time and budget, it's probably not much of a surprise that this is bigger than that game, and also improves upon it in meaningful ways, such as the flaw system probably being the biggest, at least for me personally. However, a couple other things I wanted to mention. If you are still hoping that this game is going to be this big sandbox experience that people associate with like Fallout, which they're constantly comparing this game to, you're not going to get that. It's just not that type of sandbox.
It's not. It's a town with
For
some dudes
starters, companions.
over and over
Unfortunately, I
again.
think these guys are probably the weakest part of the game in terms of their actual character. The quests you get for them can be pretty interesting. In fact, I think the quest that introduces Marisol, the elderly assassin from the Order of the Ascendant, that quest is especially well done. I like that a lot. I also think all of the companions have interesting quests, and if you talk to them, they even have interesting backgrounds. It's just that their presentation in the game is a little, I don't know, boring, especially when you compare that to like what they did with Parvati from the original game as an example.
Your skill has
Add to that the
increased.
inability to romance them, which isn't a big deal to me personally, but I think you're going to have people disappointed with the companions specifically. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the third-person animations. This is something I talked about a good bit in the lead-up to the game. I was able to ask questions about it while I was at their HQ as an example, and happy to report that what they told me there does seem to hold up. The animations are improved from what we saw in the prologue demo. Sneaking looks a little less ridiculous as an example, and the melee animations are a little better, but still kind of on the weak side. And because of that, I think if you're wanting to play this game in third person as a melee character, you're probably going to be a bit underwhelmed with how that looks visually compared to like everything else in the game. It's a noticeable weak point. But I do think the overall third person for the studio is getting better and better, though it still hasn't quite
That's very
caught up to
astute.
others in the space. Moving on a bit to the technical side of things. How is this game running? Well, a couple of things to report on that front. The biggest thing I want to mention is that there is a specific part of the game called
Your skill
Tranquility
has
Station.
increased.
That place, for whatever reason, caused a lot of crashes for me. I started noticing it probably on my second or
Your
third
skill has
playthrough, but there was a
increased.
specific part of that station that I would crash like 2 or 3 times on every time. It didn't prevent me from getting through it, but I learned not to
Your
hang
skill
around that
has
spot for
increased.
too long because for whatever reason, my system just really didn't seem to like it. Otherwise, it was mostly okay outside of some occasional freezing, the type of stuttering that is often associated with Unreal Engine, which I feel like, at least in passing, is probably the culprit. And so I didn't run into anything game-breaking by any means, but there were a few annoyances, to be sure, and I wanted to highlight those. Moving on to difficulty. So, difficulty. There are several of these, basically story through very hard. Most of what this affects is how much incoming damage you are taking. That's what you're going to feel the most. There's a couple other minor things, like there's some small adjustments to enemy health numbers that I noticed, but by far and away, the biggest thing is just how much damage you take. On very hard, I found that it turned the game into kind of like this glass cannon back and forth where I would set up a character to deal immense amount of damage, but like certain characters would just be able to one-shot me. And if you build defensively, you can sort of avoid that, but then you still have to take out enemies anyway. So the harder difficulties are really all about damage mitigation, it feels like. And as of right now, there is no New Game Plus or anything, but they have been known to add that to their game in patches later, so we'll see what happens, I suppose. But if you want to play this game on the harder difficulties, it's really just all about mitigating incoming damage from my experience. But that brings us to character creation. So character creation has the cosmetic portion that you would expect, the ability to, of course, customize your face, hair, cosmetic options. For Obsidian, it's pretty much what you would expect. It's not like the most comprehensive cosmetic character creation I've ever seen, but it did have some interesting little bits, like the ability to give yourself completely prosthetic limbs, as an example, which I thought was fun. And the fact that the game has third person means you can see yourself fully in the game if you want, but basically you'll just pick a bunch of presets, and then you can have, via sliders, the ability to adjust a bunch of random bits about your facial appearance. But really, for an RPG, I would say the more important stuff comes just after that, and picking your background, traits, and skills. So, starting with your background, this is basically how you became the Earth Directorate agent that you play the game as. More on that here in a bit. You can pick between ex-convict, gambler, lawbringer, professor, renegade, and roustabout. Someone is bound to ask, so if you don't know, roustabout is like an unskilled laborer. Now, the primary thing background affects is various conversation options. There are other moments where having a certain background will give you an extra option with an interaction you may not have had otherwise, but you see it pop up in dialogue a lot. From what I saw after playing these, they all seem to be relatively well spread out with their own options, though generally in this case, you really only see the dialogue options for the background that you have, as opposed to, of course, the ones you don't have the possibility of picking anyway. Then there are your traits. These come up a lot. There are several of them, and they have immediate gameplay effects in addition to opening up interactions in both conversations and exploration. You have to pick one of these, and if you choose to take a negative trait, you can take 2 positive traits instead. But these include
Your
things
skill
like
has
brawny,
increased.
brilliant, heroic, innovative, witty, lucky, that kind of stuff, each with their own unique interactions, in addition to a gameplay effect that you can see on screen, like
Your
brawny
skill
gives
has
you the ability
increased.
to knock enemies down by sprint sliding into them. Brilliant lets you
Your
specialize
skill
in an
has
extra
increased.
skill. Heroic allows you to make more effective use of your companion's abilities,
Your
things
skill
like
has
that.
increased.
So they have direct gameplay effects, but also the ability to unlock extra options and stuff from having these. That also applies to the negative traits, though. So if you pick up one of the 3 negative traits,
Your skill
abrasive,
has
dumb, or
increased.
sickly, those also have unique interactions. Dumb dialogue, as an example, is a thing. They've even gone so
Your
far as
skill
to
has
add extra
increased.
dialogue for if you pick up brilliant and dumb on the same character, which is something you can do and that I had fun with by building a sort of like idiot savant type character. But having played with these, I will say that nimble and sickly seem to have like the least amount of interactions, and while they have their own like individual effects that you might want to take, I did notice that those seem to be used less so than the others, nimble especially. As a result, though, these are pretty
Your skill has
impactful to
increased.
the gameplay because of their direct impact, but also the ability to give you these unique interactions, which can be fun to mess around with. But finally, we then have skills. So skills work a bit differently here, in the sense that in some ways I would say these kind of directly replace the attributes
Your
by
skill
giving
has
you, as
increased.
you increase them, incremental bonuses to various things. Now, at a base, you're going to pick 2 of these to specialize in, and it's worth a mention that because of the player level cap of 30, at least at the moment, you can only really ever cap out about 3 of these. There are some flaws and things that will give you extra skill points, but even
Your
in
skill
doing
has
that, you're
increased.
not going to be able to do everything, even with the jack of all trades flaw, which gives you extra points to put into your lowest stuff. And as such, skills have a very big impact on gameplay, determining both various conversation checks you can make, interactions, things you can get into.
11:52, not bad. This is a bad place to stay, but I think I can fix
that. You
that.
can only gain access to by lockpicking, and that's
Yeah, I can.
associated with an achievement. And while I would say most of this is self-explanatory, and you
Your
can
skill
read through
has
it,
increased.
what I actually did want to mention is that while it might seem obvious that you want to do something like pick up a combat skill of some sort, I just wanted to point out that the game is actually pretty forgiving about not necessarily
skill
building
has
a
increased.
directly combat-focused character.
Yeah,
Or
9 and
allowing
8.
you
I can
to
just sit
approach
here
combat
until I'm
in different
completely
ways than
full.
you
I'll
would
be right
expect
back.
based on these skills. So for starters, explosives is a perfectly viable combat approach, as you would expect, because it increases your damage with things like grenades, etc. So if you want to build an explosives build like you can do in, say, Fallout New Vegas, you can do that here. Guns and melee are more straightforward, of course. Leadership buffs your companions and allows you to take them into combat, but then there's other stuff that's a little more subtle, like engineering or hacking. Engineering reduces the damage you take, and maxed out, it is a significant hit to enemy damage. Hacking allows you to overcome the game's, I would say, very plentiful auto mechanicals, because in the system of Arcadia that we find ourselves in, they have a lot of these auto mechanicals or robots, and hacking gives you the ability to bypass them and deal extra damage to each other, and then you're left with the weaker human beings to deal with. And in some cases, you're even able to turn their own auto mechanicals against them, making that a very viable combat strategy, as an example. So there are some unique interactions there, and I think what I loved the most about this was being able to find ways to build this stuff in fun ways and combine stuff in ways you might not expect. That's actually probably the most fun I had with this. And it's a system that I think works pretty well overall. But before we dive into the rest of it, I may as well go over progression since we are here already. And progression is basically your levels, your perks, your flaws, and your gear. So once you've made your character and you start progressing by either killing things or doing quests, etc., you'll earn experience, which is going to level you up. You get skill points every level up, 2 by default, which you can use to increase your various skills and make you better at those things. Every other level up, every even level to be specific, you're going to pick up a perk. These perks are available based on both things like your skills. There are a little over 90 perks in total that you can actively choose from based on your skills when you hit these level up milestones. There are other perks you can pick up along the way for like collecting things or doing certain quests, that kind of stuff. And these are going to do a really big job in terms of defining your character and what they are. But where it gets really interesting is the revamped flaws system. I love what they did with flaws here because in the original game, while it was a really great idea, it kind of lacked the impact that they were going for, I think, and more often than not kind of punished the thing you were doing rather than encouraging it. Whereas the philosophy seems to have shifted here into flaws trying to actively encourage the thing you are doing that triggers them to begin with. But basically, by playing the game in certain ways, you'll trigger something like, I think it's like 30-something flaws. that will encourage you to keep doing that and give you a sort of detriment to not continuing to do that. An easy one to point that out with is overprepared. This is a flaw you can get for reloading before your magazines are empty with guns. As long as you continue to do that, you'll enjoy a 50% increased magazine size, and yet, if your gun ever runs empty, you take a hit to your damage for a short period, like 8 seconds as a result. And they use stuff like that in combinations with perks to allow you to come up with really interesting build ideas, which is where I would say is the bulk of the fun that I had with this game. It was so fun just making like really interesting characters to play through the game in different ways. Now, some of these flaws, unsurprisingly, have very, I would say, different effects on the gameplay. An easy one to point out in one of the playthroughs I did was the flawed flaw. So flawed just forces you to take every flaw you encounter, but you get extra perk points. This is a flaw they just straight up tell you that they don't recommend using on a first playthrough, and having done it myself, I would generally agree with that advice, but it is a lot more fun than you might think, and really kind of forces you to play the game in interesting ways, while also giving you the power to back that up with the extra perks, which was fun. So overall, a much, much better system than the original game, but I also don't think it's perfect either, so there are a couple flaws here and there that I think kind of lack some of that impact. Like, for instance, there's one called foot and mouth syndrome, where if you're just flying
Your
through
skill has
conversations,
increased.
because if you're like me, you read faster than
Hi,
they
kitty.
can actually spit out
Your
the
skill
words.
Yeah, you want cuddle?
From like the third or fourth
Hey.
playthrough, I don't need to hear every word of the voice acting, so I just kind of go through it once I read.
Hi.
That can trigger
I love
this
you.
flaw that will give you basically a short countdown of time to pick your next dialogue option. Or
Yeah,
the
you.
game will pick it for you if you
I
don't
love
pick
you,
fast enough.
kitty.
And you'll get more experience if you choose to pick this up, though that's not really necessary given the game's level cap, which we'll talk about in a moment. Because if you're like me and you're flying through conversations in that way, I'm still reading all of it. It's not like I'm just picking stuff at random or anything. So like the detriment there just kind of never kicks in or matters, and I just get a bunch of free extra experience as a result. And while it's not, I think, bad or anything, I think it's an interesting idea.
Ouch,
I just wanted to
stop,
point out
stop.
that there are some flaws that still kind of flirt around with that problem they had with the original. But for the most part, it is vastly improved. Now, the other side of this is gear and itemization. Itemization is much more interesting here than it was in the original game as well, with there being a lot of items with a lot of fun effects. Basically, anything unique is something you can
505.
easily carry forward through the entire game. There is
Damn it, kitty, you distracted me so bad.
Invisible if you're standing
It's
still,
alright.
which, yes, is almost certainly a reference to Skyrim.
You're
and
okay.
being able to put buckets on NPCs' heads and steal from
Ah,
them.
kitty,
Items like
you
that
messed
are kind
with
of
me.
useful throughout the game in certain situations, but then there's also items that lean directly into your skills, meaning that they scale off of your skills. Like, for instance, in Tranquility Station that I mentioned, you can buy a hat there from a vendor, the only vendor there, and I suppose you don't have to buy it technically if you have the skills, but you can get a hat there that actually allows you to hack auto mechanicals from a distance, which normally you have to get up on top of them to do, and there are other items that literally scale off the skills you have, like the effect they produce is better if you are spec'd into that skill, and as such, itemization is much more interesting here because it allows you to, again, hyper specialize in something, and really rewards playing through as that with that bit of build diversity, which is, again, the most fun I had with this game. It was just so fun building like uniquely specialized characters and finding ways to play through the game with them. Now, in addition to the regular itemization, we do, of course, have the return of the science items, both weapons like the first game, but also armors as well, which can mix up your gameplay in various ways, though these are, as with the science weapons in the first game, a little hit or miss. Some are really fun, like the armor that you can get called Gary, which comes from a guy that was trapped in a rift. That is an item that will like seek out and actively attack enemies despite being an armor. There's also the Ziranium mech suit, which allows you to hover based on your gadget energy, which actually prevents you from dying while it's happening, but poisons you with Ziranium instead, which is something we'll get into. But probably unsurprisingly, depending on your build, some of these will be more or less useful. Now, one I did want to point out was pretty much always a bad idea to use was actually the pop-up gun. You get this from Auntie's Choice, and it basically sends out little ad drones to taunt enemies, and they can blow up if you reload the gun while they're out there. And while that's a fun concept, what I found out pretty quick is that the taunt effect actually also affects neutral NPCs or like people on your side, and unfortunately has the side effect of potentially turning allies against you, which meant while that was a pretty fun idea, it wasn't super useful to actually use. But the other thing I did want to mention here is the level cap. So the level cap for your player here is 30. If you are doing everything, you're going to hit that well before the end of the game, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because then you get to play around with your max level character. But I just wanted to point out that you hit it like really early if you're doing everything. And it's kind of a bummer that at that point, progression pretty much stops unless you just happen to stumble into an item you think is especially cool. Not a huge deal, just wanted to mention it. Now, the rest of progression is stuff like companions, and we'll get into that. The only other thing I wanted to mention here is that on top of what you can do with items generally, it's also possible to mod them as well as craft. These are just little additions to both your weapons and your armor. These did not typically have like a gigantic effect or anything, but were generally pretty useful. All of that said though, let's finally move on a bit to things like the story setup and the gameplay in the world. So starting with the story, of course, and my thoughts on it, gonna try not to spoil it, obviously. Do keep in mind we're a bit ahead of the launch here though, and there may be some contextual stuff you haven't seen in the footage. So if that's a concern for you, you may well want to just skip past this part altogether. The story basically is that we play as an Earth Directorate agent this time around. Now, obviously, whether you are loyal to the Earth Directorate, how much you care about that, is entirely up to you. But the Earth Directorate is responsible for keeping these space colonies in check and not abusing their power, like we see here in the Halcyon colony previously, where these corporations essentially get left entirely unchecked and run rampant. Here we are in the Arcadia colony, which has in fact turned into a dictatorship ruled by the sovereign and their family. That seems to have been fine for a while because the Arcadia colony is actually responsible for skip drives, the things that allow for interstellar travel, and yet recently anomalies have started popping up. Rifts, as they are called, and these are preventing interstellar travel and becoming a real problem. Your job is to get to the bottom of the why. That's what you are here for. That gets a little more complicated when Auntie's Choice, a merger between Auntie Cleo's and Spacer's Choice from the first game, invades Arcadia and actively goes to war with the Protectorate, the dictatorship at home here. And how that situation resolves itself, what factions you get to align yourself with, whether or not you're even successful at figuring out these rifts and closing them down is up to you. I don't want to say too much here in terms of how that plays out, but a few general notes. The war between the Protectorate and Auntie's Choice, I think, actually does a good job of giving the game a much more grounded tone than the original title, which bordered on being so over-the-top nonsense that it was just kind of very silly as a result. This game feels like it has a more serious tone, and while there is certainly some of that like hyper-capitalist stuff of people taking advantage of others in less fortunate situations, it does, despite the sci-fi elements, feel like a little bit more of a realistic situation, especially because the Protectorate kind of work as a really good foil to everyone else by just not being that type of capitalist society. While they were treated like property and little more than slaves in many ways, at the same time, they really didn't want for anything until this invasion happened. Resources were everywhere, and while they were sharply punished if they stepped out of line, their day-to-day living situation was significantly better than, say, the people with Auntie's Choice, provided, of course, that they stuck with the program and didn't talk or think too much. If they did talk or think too much, they would be subject to mental refreshment, which seems to be kind of like a lobotomy, but, make it sci-fi, I suppose. Now, in terms of how you navigate all of this, the story essentially has a few main goals along the way, with how you get there and what you do being largely up to you. You can side with factions, you can find a way to attack it solo, you can find different routes that, you may just stumble upon simply by exploring, which can open up other options. Your previous actions may give you access to NPCs and things that open up different ways through an area. And while every playthrough essentially is going to hit the same story beats, how you get there, the people you interact with, and the things you see along the way are where things are going to be varied and different. While being relatively vague, as an example, there will be multiple times where an NPC that becomes the bad guy later is available to kill earlier than that, and if you do so, it swaps it out with a backup NPC for the story thing later that you'll only see if you did this one thing. And that makes even murder hobo runs where you go around trying to kill everyone, which by the way also has perks like serial killer to enable that style of gameplay rather than trying to restrict it. a lot of fun to play through and kind of see how the story evolves and changes. Typical stuff that you would expect, like being able to talk enemies down, typically with your speech skill, is also a thing, but I did want to mention there that a lot of times when it comes to talking your way out of things like boss fights, which you can do multiple times over the course of the game, comes down to not only your speech skill, but usually gathering required info on the situation ahead of time as well, which I always enjoy. And so while I think the actual story, if you break it down beat by beat, is just okay, it's how you can progress through that story and how it sort of like respects the choice of the player that you have created to go through that story is really interesting to me. As a result of all that though, endings are a little difficult to quantify in the sense that it is a bunch of different ending slides, and like everything you encounter along the way has a bunch of course, different outcomes based upon how you move through those areas and what the results of your actions were. And so your ending is really like a combination of all those slides put together. But one big choice you'll be making along the way is the faction you choose to side with. Now, I will say straight away, something that I was a little disappointed with was the amount of like just straight up exclusive content. So what I've described up to this point is you approaching the same situations in different ways, which I think they did a really good job with. The catch there is that there's not a lot of what I would consider like genuinely exclusive content. In fact, if you want to boil it down, it's really only a handful of quests for the factions you can actually side with. There's one faction I don't want to spoil it with that you would probably think you should be able to side with, but you can't. But those later faction quests from joining those factions are really the only thing that like you'll only see this quest and bit of content if you side with this faction, whereas everything else, it's like you'll probably see the quest if you choose to do it. It'll just play out differently depending on your choices is the main thing. As a result, most playthroughs will see the same stuff every time, with just kind of like the outcome generally being different, of course. Now, that does make for some interesting moments with companions, which we'll get into here in just a moment, because first I want to talk about the gameplay and world side of things. So there are ultimately 4 like main worlds you can land on: Paradise Island, Golden Ridge, Cloister, as well as Praetor, each of which has their own biomes and individual conflicts, things you'll have to get to the bottom of, that kind of thing. Now, these are substantially larger than the ones in the Outer Worlds 1. I would say Praetor is the smallest, but even then it's still larger than the Outer Worlds stuff. Paradise Island is probably unsurprisingly the first one you go to, and as a result, the biggest. On top of that, there's also a bunch of stations and ships you'll be able to land on and have some interactions with as well, but those are typically much smaller, condensed areas controlled by one faction or another. Now, while the game does have some interesting things to help build out this world, like a day-night cycle, as well as a radio station for each individual faction that can help vary up what you're doing as you move through the world in terms of listening, and they, of course, react to things as well. I mentioned much earlier that it is still not like a sandboxy type experience, and you can really feel that in the fact that like NPCs don't have day-night schedules. Some of them move around based on your quest progression, mind you, and there are perks that allow you to like interact with these people in fun ways. Like sometimes you can distract shopkeepers with like speech or various other skills that will allow you to like break into their stock and steal everything, that kind of thing. So there are elements of that type of stuff, but by and large, the NPCs are relatively static. In spite of that, though, there is like a faction bounty system at play, so you can pick up local bounties for just little NPCs that you can track down and kill, lingering around the maps, but if you get caught stealing or doing anything like that, murder, in addition to damaging your reputation with that faction, it will also typically slap you with a fine. Enemies will become temporarily hostile if you do anything crazy, but if you like just steal or whatever, they'll usually confront you and ask you to pay the fine, but there doesn't seem to be like a proper jail system or anything. Now, what you have to watch out for, as I mentioned, is that you can be a murder hobo and you can kill basically everybody you encounter outside of the prologue. Killing faction-required NPCs, however, will turn you...
I have 30k gold and I was at 14k yesterday.
Irredeemably harmed that
relationship
with said faction, and they will just straight up try to kill you from there on out, which makes sense. The story can still be completed, of course, but may well be a bit harder to do. Now, that does enable things like murdering everyone or a pacifist route, though I will say, while murdering everyone is a fun way to play, and I would actually, thanks to the way the perks kind of encourage you to do so. The pacifist route, while technically possible, difficult because the game has so much combat, it's difficult to avoid all of it, and while it can be done, I will say it does feel like the game just doesn't intend to be played that way, mind you. Now, the rest of it is really just exploring various points of interest, finding different routes through different dungeons and gameplay elements, stumbling upon quests, doing those, and getting a bunch of just like background lore. And I think this game actually does a great job with environmental storytelling, exploring some of these quests and learning the answer to some pressing questions you might ask yourself. Why, for instance, did Auntie's Choice invade Arcadia? You can figure all of that out, with the implications of that, what the Protectorate's been up to, obviously what's going on with the rifts, and there's a lot of stuff to explore and figure out there that I enjoyed. Now, we're not quite done yet, because another gameplay element that's changed here that I don't want to mention in the combat section specifically is actually the gadgets. So, in the first game, we had tactical time dilation, which was like a stand-in for the VAT system from Fallout, essentially slowing things down for people who are not necessarily hyper skill inclined to engage with this RPG on a more fundamental level. However, that's been expanded here to a gadget system, of which tactical time dilation is just one. As you explore the game, you'll uncover gadgets potentially that help you do extra stuff. One basic one is the Pail, which allows you to double jump, which obviously unlocks a bit of verticality in terms of the actual gameplay and exploration you'll be doing. Another fun one that enables more stealth gameplay is the sort of acid spray gadget you get that will dissolve corpses and automechanicals as you kill them in stealth. This basically enables you to hide the bodies, which enemies will detect and then go into like an alert status for a little while. That adds a fun element to stealth gameplay that, doesn't feel quite as ridiculous as moving bodies and throwing them in dumpsters, completely silently, mind you. Here you just spray them with acid and they decompose, which again opens up some fun gameplay stuff. Another one you get later is called the in-ray scanner, which helps you see some invisible enemies in certain instances. And all of that stuff I think adds an element to the gameplay that's really fun that wasn't there in the original and so was worth mentioning. But that does bring us to our companions, of which there are 6 of them. All of them but Valerie can be ignored, disposed of, failed immensely, can choose to leave you depending on your actions, that kind of thing. So you don't have to deal with these
Me
guys
cracking
at
my
all.
bones
And
scared
truth
my
be
kitty.
told, I don't think the cast is particularly strong here, even if they do have some interesting
Yeah, those are my
quests. But to
bones
kick it
getting
off
my
with Niles,
bones.
Niles kind of starts the game as like your apprentice as an Earth Directorate agent and evolves over the course of the game. Functionally speaking, he acts as your tank, and at the end of his quest line, you get a big reveal about the colony you find yourself in. But as a character, relatively unremarkable. Now, his robot companion, Valerie, serves as one of your other companions that you cannot get rid of. Valerie will always be on your roster, even if you choose not to explore with her. That is because Valerie is essential in conveying some information, I would guess.
Your skill
Doesn't really
has
have
increased.
quests per se, but you can find some upgrade parts for her to keep her
Your
as
skill has increased.
relevant combat-wise as everybody else's. Inez was probably the most interesting to me personally because
Your
she
skill
is a
has
grafted
increased.
soldier, part of Auntie's Choice's enhanced soldier program where they were grafting people with all sorts of animal parts, and while that project was mostly a disaster, some of them came out okay, like Inez here, who has this grafted mutated arm that you can choose to help with.
Your
And
skill
in
has
fact, one
increased.
really cool thing that you'll do early on is by defeating certain monsters and bringing
Your
parts back
skill
to
has
the quest
increased.
giver here, you can choose which ability and grafts she gets in order to stabilize her so she can help you out. As a result, she gets more kind of customization than the other companions because of these choices, and I think that's why I liked her a little more than the rest, to be honest. Her quests obviously revolve around this grafted soldier program and are relatively interesting. Azza, I think, is probably the best
Your skill has
character
increased.
overall, but she is a member of the Glorious Dawn, a death cult that has popped up around the rifts that you are here to get to the bottom of. Now, unfortunately, her quests kind of boring, which feels underwhelming because, again, she's probably
Your
the best
skill has
actual
increased.
character because she's effectively a death cultist and a little bit crazy. But the problem with that is I feel oftentimes she's a little too restrained for someone who's supposed to be like this murderous death cultist type person, and yet more often than not, she's happy to just do whatever you tell her to do. And I feel like her quests don't really back that up. So a great character, but otherwise unremarkable. Tristan is an arbiter or judge, jury, and executioner for the Protectorate.
Your skill
Through
has
his quest
increased.
that I don't want to spoil, he joins your team in search of answers. This is another situation where the end of his quest actually brings about some really interesting reveals, and his quests are interesting, but he as a character incredibly boring. Brainwashed guy who
Your
grew up in
skill
a
has
dictatorship,
increased.
and he's very sort of stock standard. Last but not least, we have Marisol, the elderly assassin for the
Your
Order
skill
of the
has
Ascendant.
increased.
The Order of the Ascendant being the former religious wing of the Protectorate before the schism over everything that's happened with
Your
the
skill
invasion
has
and the
increased.
Rift. The Order of the Ascendant is now an independent operator, genuinely trying to do the best they can while following their idea of the grand plan. However, they're also into some shady side stuff,
Your
which
skill
is
has
why they
increased.
employ people like Marisol, a former assassin for them. Marisol's introduction quest is probably the most fun I had with the companions overall. It's really well done. I liked it a lot. Her quest is also pretty interesting, but it involves her, like settling some old scores and stuff. And then as a character, she's a little boring. Her prime is past her. She's oftentimes the voice of cold, calculated reason, as you would probably expect. And that's fine, but she's a little
Your skill has increased.
So in totality, I was a little disappointed with the companions, and that's before you even talk about them not being romanceable, because again, that doesn't really matter to me, but I know will be in addition to this disappointing to others as well. So I don't know, the companions were a bit of a miss for me, probably my biggest negative for this entire experience. Which does finally bring us to combat. Combat is an interesting thing to talk about with this game because, like many RPGs, in
Your
this
skill
game,
has
combat
increased.
is like a function of the character you have built, and so your experience with combat
Your
is
skill
very
has increased.
wildly depending upon the character you've built. So while I'm sure you've seen plenty of it on screen,
Your
up
skill has
until now,
increased.
a lot of it is just basically that you go into combat with the various characters around you,
Your skill
using
has
whatever
increased.
weaponry you have to bring them down, be that in stealth,
Your skill has
melee,
increased.
ranged, etc. Now, one sort of broad strokes thing that is going to
Your
affect
skill has
everybody that I want to
increased.
mention here as well, though, is the medical inhaler. So one of the things you do to heal here is use this medical inhaler, which can be customized based on a few different things, namely up to 4 slots to actually insert things that adjust the inhaler. But the catch here is using the inhaler, as well as interacting with Zyranium out in the world via destroyed robots or just places where it has pooled up, is that
Your skill has
Zyranium, a
increased.
poisonous element that is used as fuel here, also powers some of these inhalers, and it
Your
builds up
skill
your
has
toxicity when you use it. At max, for whatever your character has going on, you won't be able to heal anymore. Now, there are
Your
some
skill
gameplay
has
elements that lean
increased.
fully into this as a mechanic, which is pretty fun. You also have to understand, what your ability to heal actually is, which you can adjust by simply messing around with and adjusting exactly what the medical inhaler does via all these primers and stuff you can add to it, which is a fun mechanic if you lean fully into it, or it's just a super basic heal that you can use every once in a while if you prefer. But either way, you do need to be aware that inhaler charges are a bit limited. You'll get some when you heal naturally at like auto docks and stuff, which is how you're going to cure the Zyranium poisoning, which lowers your max toxicity if you don't want to pay a vendor outright, as an example. And you can also get it by just picking up items in the environment that will just add percentages of your charge, and you can also craft them as well. But you do have to be conscious of how much your inhaler charges you're actually carrying around with you to use to begin with. So instead of giving you like a play-by-play of the basics, I'm going to talk about a few of the characters I built and how I approached combat with them and kind of what that looked like. So as you
Your
probably
skill
saw
has
from my
increased.
preview, if you watched that, I built an idiot savant character that was a lot of fun. That guy, being a bit of an idiot, his whole thing was that he was going to charge into combat with automatic weapons, typically taking advantage of some flaws and some perks to just charge in and unload on everything around him while leaning on companions when he needed a little bit of breathing room, because again, wasn't the brightest guy. That was a lot of fun because I took advantage of a bunch of different perks and play
Your skill
styles
has
to capitalize
increased.
on a very specific way to play that character, even if it wasn't
Your
optimal,
skill has
which is
increased.
probably the key word there, because that character took a lot of damage, died quite a few times, as you would imagine, because survival wasn't really his strong suit. But still a fun
Your
character
skill
to
has
play.
increased.
Another character I played was a lawbringer sheriff type that you would expect from something like a space western. This guy did two things: talked his way out of trouble while at the same
Your
time
skill
being
has
very,
increased.
very good with a gun, which means functionally speaking, he would try to talk his way out of situations if he could, which was usually the case for things like boss fights, but for everything else,
Your
he
skill
was
has
effectively
increased.
kind of like your generic stealth sniper. Now, the catch here is I did not actually
Your
have
skill
the
has
stealth skill,
increased.
which would have made this guy intensely better, but even with maxed out guns, that's still a pretty effective
Your
approach.
skill
But
has
if you want to
increased.
be the best at it, you would go stealth, guns, and combined, those would do just
Your
outrageous
skill
sneak
has
attack
increased.
damage. They'll let you one-tap basically everything, even on very hard. This guy was a little more
Your
specific
skill
than that,
has
though, and
increased.
that's kind of my point. depending on the character you built is how you can approach this stuff. Another character I built was actually an engineer hacker type. This gives
1400
of extra damage to auto mechanicals, and given some of the bosses and fights later in the game, that's actually more effective than you would think, especially when you look at engineering, which gives you resistances to damage. So this guy specialized in dealing shock damage, turning auto mechanicals against the forces they were fighting, but was a little less like directly spec'd into combat. It's also possible, of course, to play a leadership build that leans directly on your companions and buffing them. And then, of course, there's just straight up melee. This has like a block system. There's even some perks that let you do like perfect blocks to stun enemies if you want to go that route. And a character I did actually was a stealth melee type, and there is a weapon you get in the second area, Golden Ridge, if you find it anyway, from a bounty target that is called Wham Bam, which is a giant two-handed mace that also shoots the target with a shotgun shell as it makes contact, and that combined with stealth was just an outrageously strong attack. That was a really fun way to play, and as a result of all of those things, as I've tried to reiterate multiple times here, the combat is really a function of the character you've built and how you choose to engage with it and how you want to set up individual situations. Now, some other sort of generic things, you can throw grenades and throwables here. You can also set down mines and stuff for people to like walk over. That's a thing you could do. There's also a bunch of environmental interactions, which I kind of mentioned a little bit with the hacking, but sometimes there are other things like there will be potentially the ability to set up various traps or other methods of turning the environment or even some of the auto-mechanical type enemies
Your
against
skill has
the
increased.
people in the room, allowing you to clear rooms without you necessarily ever being in it. And overall, it's a really fun experience that I enjoyed a lot. And I think with any luck, there's going to be a little something there for everybody, and I got the most joy out of this game by just parsing through different character builds and finding different ways to play it. And with any luck, other people will as well. But that does finally bring us to our Steam Deck section. So the Steam Deck for this particular game runs surprisingly well. Officially, it does not have a rating just yet at the time of this video, but I would be surprised if it didn't get a verified rating overall. Typically, the things the Steam Deck concerns itself with are things Obsidian as a studio has done a really good job of adding in as accessibility options. Things like, for instance, the increased text size that is scalable, which is always a big thing with the Steam Deck. And combined with that stuff, the game, at the lowest settings anyway, looks and actually plays pretty well, even if it's obviously not a top-end experience on like a PC. So all in all, I would probably expect the Steam Deck to get verified for this. It plays pretty well there. That, though, brings us to our positives and negatives, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So on the positive side of things, building characters, having fun, finding different ways through situations and like story bits. You know, do I have the ability to talk this enemy down, or is that even possible? Is it possible to find a way for these enemies to be dealt with without your direct involvement, as an example? Do I side with this faction or that faction? What are the outcomes of those decisions? That kind of thing. That's where this game really shines. Combine that with a bunch of fun combat, depending on the character you built, the overhauls to the flaws system, and again, that is where this game is at its most fun for me. On the negative side of that, though, companions were a pretty big letdown. I don't really care about them being romanceable or not personally, but a lot of them just weren't super interesting as characters, and the ones that were interesting as characters don't really feel like they lived up to the personality that they were supposed to have, like with Azza and her murderous predilections. But there's also the lack of, like, I would say, truly exclusive stuff. So yes, there are obviously a whole host of different options and exclusive ways through a quest that can see different outcomes and lead to different moments, which can of course affect the ending. But you will still ultimately see basically all of the same stuff on every playthrough, with the actual like faction exclusive content being just a handful of quests each. Meaning that while it's fun to parse through these options and see what you can make of them, none of it is going to feel like a radically different playthrough either. And that brings me to my conclusion for this game. Broadly speaking, if you enjoyed the first game, as a lot of people did, this is a massive improvement over that. I think the changes they made to both how you can build characters with things like the flaw systems, on top of just the expanded like areas and amount of content in general, is going to be really well received. And I find myself really looking forward to the DLCs, which hopefully add even more in that regard. And yet, in spite of that, again, I think the companions are a pretty weak part of this experience, which can make something like a leadership build feel a little unrewarding because, I mean, you're basically just using generic minions, it feels like sometimes. And there's also the fact that this game still lacks a lot of those like sandboxy type elements that I know people will enjoy from this specific genre of games. And so I still think this is probably going to be an experience that isn't everybody's cup of tea by any means. But personally, I had a ton of fun with it. It's a really big step up from the first one. And for $70 US as a base price, I'm going to go ahead and give it a buy. And that's where I'm going to wrap up this particular review. So certainly hope you enjoyed all of that. If you did,
good shilling.
Comment, subscribe,
Mort.
all that YouTube jazz. Let me know what you
Good
think about
shilling.
this one down in the comment section below. But regardless of any of that,
I don't think I'll play this game. I'm terribly sorry. Oh my god, he covered the tattoo. Are you serious?
Trump just pardoned CZ, the founder of Binance. Bro, I am so cooked. My career is over. Worst time to be involved in fraud catching in the world, bro. There is just a pay to pardon going on here. Look, I got the whole timeline in front of me. I'm going to go through it. Let me just tell you my mindset. It's rough out here for a CoffeeZilla. Whether or not you're a stan of the Trump family, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is just straight up corruption, which we should be all against, right? Should not be a political issue. Unfortunately, increasingly, politicians are involved in these huge crypto self-dealing deals, but I am not injecting politics into this, okay? It just so happens that they happen to be in positions of power, but don't worry about that, right? Just look at the facts, please, for a moment. It all starts November 21st, 2023, okay? Binance and Changpeng Zhao both plead guilty in a historic $4 billion plea deal, where basically they admitted they didn't really have anti-money laundering controls, and they kind of willfully looked the other way, specifically in regards to people they probably should have not allowed them to use their platform, such as, according to the charges, terrorists, cyber criminals, and child abusers, which, you probably should block those people from using your platform. Now, on April 30th, 2024, Zhao is officially sentenced to 4 months of prison. And of course, a few months later, Donald Trump takes office, wins the presidency, okay? And while he's winning the presidency, he also announces the launch of something called World Liberty Financial, which is kind of their big crypto project entry. And this will become important in a moment. But before we get to that, let's just talk about something that happens on March 12th, 2025. This is about a year after he gets sentenced to prison. All of a sudden, you have a big investor come in and put tons of money into Binance. It's a company called MGX, and they invest a $2 billion stake into Binance. And specifically, they say they're going to do it in crypto. What kind of crypto is not announced. Now, the next day, it's reported by the Wall Street Journal that Binance has been reaching out to allies of Trump since the year before in talks to strike a business deal with the family as part of a return of the exiled company to the U.S. It says the possibilities include the Trumps taking a stake in Binance or the deal going through World Liberty Financial. So already you're hearing little rumblings that, okay, maybe they're trying to do a special deal with Binance, and pretty soon we're going to hear talks of the pardon come up. But while that's happening, March 25th, 2025, World Liberty Financial announces a stablecoin. Now, if you don't know, stablecoins are like this incredible business because you just farm a bunch of yield from treasury bills while people use your stablecoins. The major players are USDT and USDC. It's important to note it's incredibly hard to launch a stablecoin. People don't like using
The other day I started receiving messages from people asking me if Japan is okay, linking a rather ominous sounding video called What is Happening to Japan? It wasn't just the title and thumbnail that were ominous, but the description reading, Is Japan cooked? I've seen a lot of changes and things seem to be getting worse. In an era where I'm now being sent daily AI videos and photos that sorely misrepresent Japan from bizarre and questionable accounts, it made
Your
an almost
skill has
refreshing change
increased.
to be sent something produced by a human being. And more crucially, a creator who is one of the biggest
skill
foreign
has
content
increased.
creators living in Japan, with 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube alone and hundreds
Your
of
skill
thousands
has
more
increased.
across other social media platforms. In fact, the same video had been chopped up into half a dozen videos without dialogue and shared on Instagram and TikTok, amassing over
Your
3
skill
million
has
views in just a
increased.
matter of days. Now I was especially concerned, not just as somebody living in Japan or
Your
Tokyo,
skill
but
has
actually this street
increased.
where the thumbnail's taken is somewhere I walk down once or twice a week in Nakameguro. One of my favourite coffee shops is just around the corner, and in fact, this video I made earlier in the year was filmed on the same street, albeit at a different angle, not showing the abandoned house.
Your
And not
skill
to
has
mention,
increased.
I've actually been living in the neighbourhood myself for the last 3 years. And when I went to take the thumbnail for my video, I quickly noticed a few interesting differences between my original ungraded photos and the thumbnail of her video. It is
Your
a
skill
rather
has
fascinating
increased.
game of spot the difference. So naturally, I was a bit concerned to find out what is happening to Japan, especially as over 3 million people had seen this message. For half of the runtime of the video,
Your
the creator
skill
in
has
question
increased.
walks through Kabukicho in Shinjuku, Japan's biggest nightlife district, with a reputation for being dirty and gritty, filming bin bags, litter, and homeless people. In the short form content, the same videos show the litter
Your
being
skill has
intercut at
increased.
times with foreign tourists, who are queuing unremarkably to take a photo of the Toho Godzilla statue, although the angle of the statue was left out of the footage. And it's at this point I
Your
need to
skill has
reiterate, if you
increased.
don't know Japan, Kabukicho or Shinjuku can be a bit of a shock. It's
Your
the equivalent
skill
of
has
walking through
increased.
downtown LA or Soho in London. And in recent years, it's been gentrified more than perhaps anywhere in Tokyo. It used to be genuinely quite dangerous. I remember 10 years ago, I made a hotel reservation there and had to cancel it after there was a Yakuza shootout quite literally across the road from the hotel. The area is also synonymous with Tokyo's homeless population as far back as 2003, when the film Tokyo Godfathers shone a spotlight on the long-standing homeless population, which, according to the statistics, is thankfully going down. And if you walk around there today, compared to 10 years...
Go back.
The film Tokyo Godfathers shone a...
Tokyo Godfathers. I've never heard of this. Tokyo Godfathers. Is it on Netflix? No. Tokyo Godfathers, huh? Okay.
Spotlight on the long-standing homeless population, which, according to the statistics, is thankfully going down. And if you walk around there today, compared to 10 years ago, there are far less homeless people. But crucially, Kabukicho and Shinjuku doesn't represent Tokyo, it doesn't represent Japan, but if you wanted to make Japan look cooked, it would be the first place you would go,
Your
pull
skill
out your
has
camera
increased.
and hit record. The other half of the runtime in these videos was dedicated to Nakameguro, a trendy district that's historically one of Tokyo's most artistic neighborhoods, and with a recent history of graffiti, both artistic and just tagging, where people just spray paint their name. A few years ago, I think it was 2019, there was quite a lot of graffiti, and the local schools got together to paint over it, and then the graffiti came back again. But when Japanese TV made a video on it, interviewing locals, interestingly, they didn't intercut it with shots of Asia's biggest nightlife district and call it What is Happening to Japan. They called it Residents Express Discomfort at 37 graffiti sites found around Nakameguro Station. And maybe that's why, despite having twice the number of subscribers, they only got 100,000 views, instead of almost 500,000. Silly traditional media attempting to present news in an objective manner in 2025. And so at this point you might be thinking, okay, right, so what's happened to Japan? What happened next? Now lean in, come closer, come in. That was it. That was literally it. In a country of 120 million people, they were all cooked because of some bin bags in a red light district and some spray paint on a wall down 6 or 7 streets in the capital city. And while the YouTube video was 15 long, stupid minutes I'll never get back, it was the short form content that really concerned me. We live in a scary time when more people now than ever before learn things about countries and cultures from 30 to 60-second videos without context, and where the more sensationalist the videos are, the more you will be rewarded for it. People are angry, both in Japan and around the world at the moment. And this video...
Yeah, I think I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I've often talked a lot, but I don't think I want to talk a lot anymore. I just want to let this happen. I'm angry and I've been screaming at them. I think people know who I am, even at a young age of 40 fucking whatever. And like, you know, and I don't know if I need to keep doing that. I know that it's all just hyperbole towards hyperbole. I'm not stupid. All the time I'm aware of it.
These videos
Your skill has
seem
increased.
to be exceptional rage bait that made a lot of people angry. Without any exposition on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, they showed a series of awful images in a densely populated area. And if you look at the comment sections, particularly on those shorts, you will see the most vile, hateful,
Your skill
angry
has
comments
increased.
that you can find. A creator isn't responsible for what people comment on their content, but subtle choices, the way the images and clips are cut and edited together with the message that goes with it, can have a very powerful effect. As somebody who's edited over 300 videos, I'm more aware of that than anyone. The most unsettling thing is it's never been easier to monetize sensationalist slop content. And if you do it, you'll be richly rewarded for it. Case in point, this video, the creator pointed out, made $1,500, which is a seriously impressive amount of money, going around filming some bin bags and some spray paint in a video that would have taken a matter of hours to record. And this is one of the things that worries me the most, the monetization of slop sensationalist content. That's one thing I want to discuss a little bit later on. It's at this point I thought, look, just don't say anything, bite your tongue, move on. But when I saw millions upon millions of views, people angry, a current backdrop of sensationalist slop content taking over, and a rise in anti-foreign sentiment here in Japan, I snapped. I had to say something. I chose to bring attention to it publicly. And I quickly received 2 replies. The first was from a guy who posted a photo of some graffiti he saw in 1993, pointing out graffiti has always been around in Tokyo. And the other comment was from the content creator herself, who told me to take it down. This was now a creator on Creator Matter, and they were just a humble creator with a GoPro, somehow conveniently forgetting they were one of the biggest foreign content creators in Japan. Now, I think if you are a large content creator, both literally and metaphorically, you should be willing to accept a degree of scrutiny. I know I do. Every time I release a video, people attack me for various things. And if I see something that I believe misconstrues reality, then I'm going to call it out as well. Impressively, no less than 6 hours later, she'd shot, edited, and released an entire video about what she'd called an attack, calling me a gatekeeper. I was accused of painting Japan as a utopia. I was accused of excluding her from my friendship group, somebody I've never met, never spoken to. I was accused of being grumpy, maybe because her views had claimed that she was more attractive than me and less grumpy. And no, I'm not making this up. This is actually a real video. And finally, I was called the C word, just to add the cherry on top. It is, ironically, one of the most bizarre, personal, rambling attacks that I've ever had. And I think it is really pointless. It degrades any sort of debate or conversation, and it's the least important thing that I want to talk about today. And for some clarity, I really don't dislike this person. I dislike their content, not just this video, but some other videos, which I'll discuss. I know I can be sarcastic and silly, but I'm genuinely not a malicious person. I quite honestly wish her well. And I ask you, if you disagree with her, if you disagree with me, that you always comment in a respectful manner. Don't share any hatred online. There's already enough of that going around. And I'm making this video for 2 reasons. Number one, there are much bigger issues in play here around content creation, around Japan, and I want to discuss those. And second of all, some people see it as me bullying another creator because they don't understand why I would bring this up. And honestly, I don't do this sort of thing lightly. The only time I think I've ever called out a creator was Mr. Beast last year, when he partnered with Logan Paul, a man who did awful things in Japan, which I had to discuss publicly on Japanese national television. I didn't enjoy making that video or the attention or scrutiny it brought me. I hate myself sometimes, that I can't keep my mouth shut on certain things. But when you feel something is profoundly wrong in here, you have to talk about it. I've held my tongue previously on other content that this creator has produced. A few years ago, a friend showed me a clip of a video in which the same person walked through an economically deprived part of Tokyo filming homeless people.
Oh my gosh, this is a rough area.
Under the guise of showing the real Japan, filming the most vulnerable people in society and posting it online. Like, I've had Japanese friends tell me this sort of stuff makes them feel uncomfortable. Beyond that, it sort of portrays Japan as this magical place where there's a barrier between us, where if you speak Japanese, they will bounce around, they will scream and shout, it will cure depression, as if the entire country is one big social experiment waiting to be exploited. And I worry in an era of nuisance content creators coming to Japan doing things that are unspeakably bad. They might see this sort of content and go, wow, you get $1,500 for that. Maybe start to wave cameras around in the faces of homeless people, potentially leading to even more nuisance content. And when the cost of making such content is nothing, but the profits are extraordinary, the only real thing stopping you from doing that is morals. And as we've seen time and again with streamers in Japan, morals are often in short supply. And coupled with the fact there's rising anti-foreign sentiment in Japan, it makes me concerned and uncomfortable. So what are the real issues facing Japan? What is happening to Japan? In the last few weeks, I've been traveling around the country, filming videos. I've been to Sendai, Nagano, Nagoya, Gifu, Okinawa, and spending time with the locals out there, talking with them, hearing their concerns. I can assure you, none of them care about a fucking bin bag in Shinjuku or some spray paint on a wall in Nakameguro. The two most notable things are depopulation and a cost of living crisis. And funnily enough, while this stuff was happening, I was on an island in Okinawa interviewing the locals on how depopulation has affected their island, where once there were hundreds of people, today there are 50. This has obviously affected island life. And quite honestly, I would much rather be editing that video than talking about this. But it will take me weeks to edit that video and do the islanders' story justice. And this takes me to the real crux of the matter, the thing that worries me the most. In the same time that it will take to produce this video, I could go out and film 50 of these videos, make a lot more money with a lot less effort. It is increasingly hard to compete when you're producing videos to a higher standard, when you have to fact check everything. The creator of this video claimed it took 50 hours to produce this video, a claim I find to be, quite frankly, baffling. I'm not sure where the 50 hours went. And you might think, well, he does sound kind of jealous now. Maybe she's right. Maybe he's just not getting the views. And I say far from it. I could go out and make this content in one afternoon in 10
Oh, I'm dead. Of course. I went to pee and I'm instant dead.
They don't reward accuracy. They don't reward nuance or objective reason. They reward clicks, they reward attention, they reward sensationalism. Journalistic integrity really doesn't count for much online, unfortunately, to an almost dystopian degree. Some criticisms levelled at me is that I also make sensationalist content and that I only show the nice side of Japan, the squeaky clean, rose-tinted spectacle version of the country. And to that I would say there's a big difference between sensationalist content and clickbait titles and thumbnails. I hate having to pull a stupid face. I hate my thumbnails and titles, but it is simply a matter of survival on an increasingly crowded platform that doesn't share your content unless it has a high click-through rate. And I try to make up for the stupid faces and titles by delivering content that does the subject matter justice. And the claim that I show only the over-romanticized utopian version of Japan is simply ridiculous. Does this look romanticized? Is this a utopia? Does that look romanticized? Is this a utopia? But do I walk through economically deprived parts of Tokyo and Osaka filming homeless people with a GoPro? No, I don't. And I'm sorry if that is the only definition of showing the dark side of Japan that you have. I cover the matters that I genuinely believe are affecting Japan the most. And in fact, I've been speaking with a homeless shelter about doing a documentary, but it's a serious topic and these are people's lives and I need to tackle that carefully. If you want to watch something about Japan's homeless population, Life Where I'm From has made a fantastic documentary series on the subject. I would urge you to go and watch them. I will say, I felt sort of disheartened this year in general about so many things, about the state of the world.
This past week, and
Explain it, lady. People
Oh
don't know.
man,
The people.
hello, welcome back, Wineabouters.
Hello, everybody.
Is that
Welcome
what
to
they're
this
called?
week's
The
episode.
Wineabouters?
The winos.
The winos. Ooh,
Yeah.
I kind of like the winos.
This is, I think. But we don't drink wine, and people have been talking about it.
I'm drinking wine next week since we're doing a night episode. Oh my god, good idea. I decided. No, this is the first thing I thought of when we talked about filming at 7 p.m. Oh, well, I feel like I'm coming off like a desperate alcoholic because like I've been wanting to drink on this podcast.
I'm not gonna lie, we deserve a drink.
You deserve a drink. Actually, me too. One drink, please.
We deserve a drink or a bottle.
We are Daisy and Peach today.
You guys like our Halloween costumes?
It's actually really cute.
Yay.
Hiding.
The video game industry has been growing exponentially nearly every single year for 40 years straight. Well, it was until 2022 when everything began to crash and burn. Just today, as of recording, Ubisoft gained $720,000 in value, which would be amazing if they didn't lose $11 billion in value in just the last few years. To give you a visual demonstration of what that looks like, if this star is how much money they gained, this black hole is how much money they've lost. Except I lied. The black hole is 80 times larger than the star, while the money hole should be 15,000 times larger. 4 decades of hiring hidden talent and publishing landmark titles, only to plummet in both quality and reputation in only 4 years. And it's not just Ubisoft. Gaming as a whole is collapsing in on itself. Over the past few years, growth didn't just slow down, video games have actually been shrinking more and more, leading to worldwide higher-ups cutting funding by almost 80%. How does this happen? How can global studios go from multi-billion-dollar industry Goliaths to laughable industry punching bags in so short a time? How can 40 years of dominance be erased in 3? It's too fast a drop to be explained by one single cause, so maybe we should ask a different question. What happens when an industry whose success is designed around rampantly growing the number of users every year maxes out on how many new people they can grab? When you've dug hole after hole of pure gold for 40 years, but suddenly there's no more space to dig. Today, we're exploring the dramatic implosion of gaming studios around the world and how that may trickle down to even your favorite indie titles. How decades of growth created an impossible bubble where anything other than the line shooting up means record-breaking layoffs every year. And how a small studio might hope to break through in their own way amid sweeping changes and catastrophic economic conditions far outside their control. I know I set up a lot here, and I promise we'll get to it all, but video game struggling means my wallet is also struggling, so let me fulfill this contractual obligation. And thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring this part of the video. Last time I talked about their everyday earbuds, I mentioned the active noise cancellation and Snug Ear Fit being great for when I use this treadmill I found on the street. But now that I'm putting it back on the street, they're great for lugging it down 4 flights of stairs too. My neighbors might hear each and every clang on the steps, but with Raycon, I am at peace. And if I really wanted to hear their yelling, I could click on awareness mode too, but that's if I wanted to. I'm rocking the rose gold with the Galaxy case here, but if you want more colors, the Everyday Earbuds Classic is back for the back to school season with a whole bunch more. It's my favorite time of the year because I can choose to relive my middle school days. And immediately we forgot them. Raycon's 32-hour battery life with the case and quick charge function with 10 minutes of charge granting 90 minutes of playtime is perfect to ensure I'm stuck with my thoughts for as little time as possible. And their multi-point connectivity means I can pair it with both my normal phone and my toilet phone at once. Check out buyraycon.com/eggsoup to get 20% off site-wide. And if you don't like them, there's a 30-day return guarantee. Easy to pair, 33-foot range if you're European, there's a 10-meter range. Buyraycon.com/eggsoup. Thank you again to Raycon for sponsoring this part of the video. Remember that question about the well and digging hole after hole until there's no more space left to dig? If you answered to cannibalize yourself, digging as deep as you possibly can back into the very same well, charging all of your existing players more and more again and again, congratulations are in order, you might be in line for an executive position. This why studios are pushing for more and more monetization is the leading question to ask throughout this whole video, and hopefully by the end we'll reach an answer together that's infinitely more satisfying than just saying they want more money, because of course they want more money. We'll be returning to this question again at the very end. It's actually my favorite part of the video. If you only watch one part, I'd want you to watch that, because I know it's a winding road to get there. But you clicked on an hour-long video essay about video games, so you knew what you were getting into. Got defensive. When it comes to greed, players are very quick to point at Ubisoft as one of the key contributors in the downfall of the modern gaming industry. Much like EA, Ubisoft is a name so tarnished it's become automatic taboo. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, they were celebrated as trailblazers in the industry alongside other renowned companies at the time like Blizzard and Bethesda, which is also funny now. I do want to say, I'm not trying to celebrate this downfall. Going from a $12 billion company in 2021 to a $1 billion company in 2025 is a staggering decline. It means people far outside of the decision-making seats lose their jobs. Not to mention how the deterioration of a studio once on top of the world means a deterioration of things many of us hold dear. So I'm talking about this as an examination of the rapidly changing times we live in. Ubisoft's tale is one of stellar developers racing against lofty corporate objectives. And while it seems simple on the surface, the greater story goes far beyond this one company. Founded in 1984 as Guillemot, Informatique, and rebranding 2 years later to Ubisoft, the French company acted primarily as a video game distributor throughout the 80s, focusing mainly on small projects and local licenses. They were definitely not known for making hit titles. Things really picked up for Ubisoft when they took a chance on hiring a very young developer named Michel Ancel, who catapulted the company into global recognition with his flagship franchise Rayman in 1995. Keep this in the back of your mind. They took a risk and the company thrived. With both critical acclaim and critical success now in their belt, Ubisoft expanded rapidly, opening dev studios in Montreal, Shanghai, and Germany. And this brand of rapid expansion was just a taste of what was to come. Each decade, Ubisoft seemed to reinvent themselves and continue pushing the envelope of the gaming industry. The early 2000s marked their next reinvention, acquiring the rights to Tom Clancy in 2000 and releasing Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell in 2002, an action stealth game frequently cited on lists containing the best video games, and followed up with sequels in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2010, and 2013. 1 year after Splinter Cell, Ubisoft released the 2003 E3 Game of the Year, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, with sequels in 2004, 2005, and 2010. 2003 also marked the year of Michel Ancel's next project,
Beyond Good and Evil,
with a sequel in actually, we'll get to that one. 2004, Far Cry 1, and 2007, their biggest hit yet, Assassin's Creed. A game so enticing, so different from anything out at the time. And Assassin's Creed...
What do you mean, wow? Oh, come on, wow.
Made the original great and did it better. Better story, better characters, better gameplay. Ezio achieved a feat essentially no other protagonist in the early 2000s ever could. He was actually cool. 2009 also marked the release of the major commercial success Just Dance, Ubisoft's foray into a completely different audience. This diversification only served to grow the company further, with follow-ups of course in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and every subsequent year up to 2025, and if we're lucky, likely beyond. This was Ubisoft's franchise foundation.
This is what happens when a bad game gets popular. They make 25 sequels.
Phases. And following up on the staggering success of Assassin's Creed, the 2010s would be yet another decade where the company would transform. This decade would be the peak of Ubisoft.
Final Fantasy being the only exception.
Direct Rayman Origins in 2011 and Rayman Legends in 2013, critically acclaimed platformers far surpassing the original, with Legends specifically lauded by many as one of the best platformers of all time. Far Cry 3 in 2012, often considered Ubisoft's greatest game ever, blew the door down for the rest of their open world games to walk through. Assassin's Creed Black Flag in 2013, Watch Dogs in 2014, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege in 2015, and The Division in 2016, which was the fastest selling new IP ever at the time. However, while it was their highest peak yet, the golden seeds Ubisoft planted with Far Cry and Assassin's Creed in the early 20s.
I'm coming.
Started to form. Far Cry 4, while good, did not provide the same sequel caliber upgrade as Assassin's Creed 2 did compared to Assassin's Creed 1. Watch Dogs was riddled with game-breaking bugs, and The Division, despite that incredible launch, failed to fully live up to its massive open-world scope. While the 2010s marked Ubisoft's greatest expansion and largest profits yet, it was also the era where...
What happened? No. Stop. There it is.
The rapid release fatigue started to slowly reach not just the players, but the developers too. It wasn't understood by the general public at the time, but behind-the-scenes crunch, delayed releases, and diminishing returns with each and every sequel revealed a long-term unsustainability with their publishing model. A publishing model, mind you, that nearly every big studio was also using at the time. At some point, the line can't keep going up at the same pace, but when all of their systems require it to keep functioning, something is going to give. It would work incredibly for now, but in 5, 10 years, maybe not. Make no mistake, Ubisoft was bigger than ever, but the once indomitable giant began to have its reputation slip. Amidst all of these problems taking place in the offices themselves, the company at this point clearly had grown to a point where the desires and wills of the few far outweighed the desires and the wills of the many. And the company saw the writing on the wall, recognizing that if game sales numbers weren't going to exponentially increase to match the exponential growth of the company, something else would have to in its stead. And not long after, they began formally introducing in-game sales, kicking off the modern live service era of Ubisoft as we know it. Microtransaction-riddled multiplayer experiences, online-only requirements for single-player games, and an ever-creeping increase in grindiness to incentivize time-saving purchases from their fanbase, the definition of a Ubisoft game began to change. What was once a compliment of high esteem referring to a quality industry-shaking release now meant the same thing you've been seeing for the past 5 years, but somehow more hollow. Just Dance was just the beginning. While follow-ups like Assassin's Creed Origins in 2017 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 2018 sought to dramatically expand the scope of the franchise, their receptions were mixed, with a common critique citing not only their numerous bugs and unfinished features, but how somehow this was still the same game 10 years later. Not only that, this once beloved action-adventure series now had microtransactions galore. Ubisoft started deliberately slowing the game down just enough so that a subsection of their players would get frustrated and open their wallets to spend even more on a time-saving resource pack.
Of course they did.
Blatant, most players were understandably frustrated and felt disrespected. This company clearly just saw them as money bags. Sure, the quality of the game might have suffered, but it worked. Line must go up, so they'll find a way to make it go up. New year, new release, and if sales aren't improving, crunch the devs, charge players more, cut risky titles, halt investments in smaller devs. The line must go up. Because if it starts to waver, the investors start to get scared. And you can't have the investors scared because all of the executive jobs justify their own existence by justifying their existence. Far Cry Primal copy and pasting the map from Far Cry 4 likely to meet release demands, The Division 2 failing to reach audience and sales expectations and increasing the push for in-game purchases, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint with 2 paid currencies, and so much backlash before full release that Ubisoft had to pull their time savers grind skipping microtransaction entirely. And keep in mind, these are all for games you already paid for. Some of the audience would say it's not that much, it's optional, it's not a big deal, but unfortunately, this was only the beginning. Assassin's Creed Valhalla in 2022 had much the same buggy release issues as its predecessor. And while they ditched the controversial XP gain booster, paying to bypass an intentional grind was alive and well, with unique armor, weapons, silver, and resources to progress faster. Beyond Good and Evil 2, announced in 2008 and re-announced in 2017, has still yet to come out, with Michel Ancel retiring from Ubisoft in 2020 to focus on his passion for wildlife and animals. His other title, Wild, was also cancelled last year. With their star visionary rightfully earning a happy retirement, Ubisoft's future banked on their established franchises. But those very established franchises were slipping in the public eye. The 2020s rapidly became a free-fall for the company. Hyperscape, a promising neo-futuristic battle royale, attempted a Twitch streamer-fueled release campaign, but according to The Verge, dropped to, quote, abysmal viewership just 1 day after release. Launched in July 2020, the game shut down just 2 years later. Franchise sequels like Watch Dogs Legion, the aforementioned Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, Rainbow Six Extraction, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and Prince of Persia The Lost Crown all failed to meet expectations from the fans, or failed to meet sales numbers in the rare cases of favorable reviews. All the while, the stock price continued to drop further and further as the 2020s went on. Their original releases, too, were plagued by the Ubisoft-type game moniker, as Avatar Frontiers of Pandora sold decently well and was praised for its beautiful world, but criticized for essentially the same things that people had been criticizing every other Ubisoft game for. Yes, it was cool, but its repetitive gameplay loop basically made it Far Cry 2.0. X-Defiant, a free-to-play FPS game, launched in 2024 with a record 1 million players within 2.5 hours, but failed to keep those players around for its subsequent updates. Like Hyperscape, X-Defiant shut down its servers entirely and is no longer available to play. Just a few months before X-Defiant boasted a $70 price tag and was advertised as the world's premier quadruple A game, and then fell flat in the market, of course, alongside its in-game store, battle pass, seasonal events, and premium currency. The nail in the coffin for Ubisoft's late 2010s, early 2020s live service era was Star Wars Outlaws, a game whose team consisted of around 600 developers and overwhelmingly failed to reach its sales targets. Despite the powerful Star Wars brand name, the $70 price tag paired with $110 and $130 pre-order editions alongside less than enthusiastic early reviews dragged the game and Ubisoft's image down even further. Outlaws wasn't terrible, but a 6 to 7-ish out of 10 game in the modern era, especially with the global economic state, is not enough to turn the ship around. Following Star Wars Outlaws' release, Ubisoft's stock, which had recovered slightly from its dramatic decline in 2021 to 2024 with an outperforming Q1, suddenly dropped to record lows with a 10% hit in less than 2 days. That was a catastrophic loss. And while we now understand the game alone wasn't responsible for Ubisoft's staggering loss in valuation, a new breach in the hull of a sinking ship is gonna do a whole lot of damage. The numbers tell you it was $12 billion built up over 40 years, only to crumble in 4. But looking at the releases, this decline was in motion perhaps as far back as 2013. Modern-day Ubisoft appears to be stuck in a rut left behind by their money-printing past. Assassin's Creed's newest entry, Shadows, released in March of this year, cited by many as the best in the series in over a decade, and reaching the highest player count on Steam the series had ever seen. And according to Ubisoft's mid-2025 financial results that came out last month as of making this video, the game did perform in line with expectations, although they stated they won't disclose the number of units sold. But even assuming Shadows had highly favorable results, Ubisoft remains as much in the hole as they've ever been. And it seems the days of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry release catapulting the company into the stratosphere are long gone. Their future release schedule doesn't inspire much enthusiasm either. Assassin's Creed Jade, a mobile game, The Division 3, Assassin's Creed Codename Hex, Assassin's Creed Codename Invictus, a remake of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, a remake of Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, franchises established in the early 2000s, given the imposing, nigh impossible task of keeping the company afloat. Microtransactions aplenty to siphon as much as possible from their remaining player base and report positively to the shareholders, no doubt. For what it's worth, after what became a much more lengthy retrospective than I anticipated, I genuinely do not have any ill will towards any developer working at the company. I think that'll be crazy. Nor do I truly believe they initially set out to vampirically feed on the most diehard subsection of their fans. Ubisoft seems to be an all too familiar tale of success leading to rapid growth, and that rapid growth granting the chance to push profits even further if they doubled down. So they chose to double down and then quadruple down, expand, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar company, but all of these decisions have ballooned their expenses to the point where any slowing down would cause a systematic implosion from the top down. They've dipped into the well of shareholder interest over player satisfaction too many times to go back. And now the company seems like a house of cards held up by Assassin's Creeds and Far Cries and their Tom Clancy IP. A house of cards, mind you, where somehow the top layer is all Benjamins. All the while, ex-Ubisoft developers are proving it's not about their own incompetency, it's clearly a larger company issue as they've released some of the biggest hits of the past couple years, Stray, and most recently, Expedition 33. What's sobering, however, is I could have replaced Ubisoft with what seems to be an endlessly growing list of companies, and the conclusion would be basically the same. Tracking the aforementioned Blizzard, Bethesda, EA, Activision, Take-Two would tell an almost identical story. Developing and or publishing landmark titles, hiring legendary developers that create an iconic franchise, and then pushing out game after game after game after game until every game is the same as last year and everything becomes riddled with Skinner plots, monetization, and strategy. Gaming has changed. The stakes are more important than ever. Multiplication of attention is more focus than ever. I mean, look where we are right now. Usually that's what we're all about here.
Damn it, Carl.
So let's zoom out for a second and examine what is going on economically to answer why all of this is going down and why all of this is going down now, specifically. Because it's much bigger than you may think. I'll be citing Matthew Ball's The State of Video Gaming presentation and the Game Developers Conference State of the Gaming Industry 2025 report for much of this section. I'm certainly no expert, so credit for research and statistics goes to the original authors. Apologies if I misinterpret any data. In the decade between 2011 and 2021, the video game industry absolutely exploded. It beat external expectations, it beat internal expectations, and its spending significantly beat global benchmarks of the world's real GDP by 3.3x. Basically, they were on top of the world, with media outlets reporting video games decimating the traditional media giants of film, TV, Broadway, books, and even music. But between 2022 and 2024, not only did the gaming industry as a whole fall short of expectations, it flattened out entirely, with billions of hours of playtime and billions of dollars of spending less than anticipated. And this is even accounting for a drop-off post-Pandoozy now that people can leave their homes. Fast forward to today, and the industry is shrinking despite increasing spending on books, music, and digital video. All of those are doing better, but gaming for some reason is doing worse. Seeing these trends, venture capitalist investments and or publisher funding dropped dramatically, and many studios now can't find the funding necessary to finish and release their games. That goes especially for smaller studios
because they don't make them good anymore, and that's all I need from you. Goodbye. I'm gonna get off this game now. I'm done with this game. I knew it. Knew it. Knew it. No, yes. No, yes. The chat is actually quite funny. Gotta collect them all. I miss you, and then ECR. Yes. Yes. Basocorp. Sharks are freaking laser beams, man. Man, I'm out in the middle of fucking nowhere. I went all the way south, huh? Yeah, I did. I went all the way the fuck south or somewhere from some town. I have no idea where I'm at. I'm getting off this fucking game. Good night. Okay, time for some Overwatch 2 and some beer. Yeah. I'm going to listen to some Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong, 11:30 at night. Yeah, Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong. The only Kong in your dong. I want to write a song called Conky Dong. The only Donkey Kong in your... Oh, I can't say Donkey Kong. The only Conky... I want Conky Dong or something like that, where it's like the only Donkey Kong and the only Kong in your dong. Conky Dong, the only dong in your Kong. What the fuck were they talking about? Conky Dong or whatever, you know? And I do want to write a song about the Conky Dong. God damn it. Oh, I misspelled. You're so annoying. I misspelled again. Ah, you're so annoying. Go, I'm gonna play some Overwatch 2.
Your skill has increased.
Your skill has increased, kitty.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
Blizzard 2. Fire 2.
Your skill has increased.
Arrow 2. Burn, arrow, wind, shaw. Die, you fucker. Die, fucker. I love this stupid game. It's so much better than all the other games. Show me another Rafflesia. Yeah, take me to that thing or whatever. Yeah, take me to that one. Take me to a Rafflesia. Man, I need freeze. Okay, Blizzard 2.
Your skill has increased.
Fire 2. God damn it, swing. Burn this stupid Rafflesia.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
Burn the Rafflesia. Burn him. Burn him. Fuck him. Burn him. Taro burn. Taro burn. I'm asleep for a whole minute. That dirty son of a bitch. Where am I? Oh yeah, is this over now? Yeah, this is over now, huh?
Your skill has increased.
Nice, I'm in a match now. Kill this stupid thing. Oh no, kill this stupid thing. Kill this stupid thing. Fire 2, fire 2. Go fight the Mad Fox. Stupid Mad Fox. Fire 2.
Your skill has increased.
Fire 2. They're all weak to fire 2. Fire 2. Everything's weak to fire. Burn it.
Your skill has increased.
Get this thing off of me. Heal me. No, he doesn't like me. Fucking heal me. Heal me. Fire 2. He doesn't like me. I'm tanking. Fire 2. Fire 2. Fire 2. I will do the real damage. Fire 2. Fire 2. Fire 2. Fire 2. Are you playing this Overwatch match? Not really. Fire 2. Fire 2. Not really, bitch. Not really. Sneak and Viz. And I'll take a Mercy.
Your skill has increased.
Yeah, do it. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. Battery. Aw, what?
Your skill has increased. 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 Your skill has increased.
Warp drive active. To give the command to a drone requires you to have an active target.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
Yeah, it took my mercy, damn it. Alright, fine, you want a mercy brig then. Took my mercy, I'll brig then. See how you like this. They're like, damn it. I don't care, we're good at these classes, so whatever. You guys suck at getting kills, but we don't suck at heals, I guarantee it. I'm not scared of this, I want it. You take my mercy, get a brig. Whatever, I'm a gold brig, fuck that.
Your skill has increased.
Sorry, kitty.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
I really like being in Winter's S. I think I'll probably just play Seekers or whatever. Are we in yet? Probably not, huh? That wasn't too good of the Reaper. Wow. Well, I'm not eating it. I'm not the tank. Why did the tank go so far? Oh, the tank left because he sucks. Yeah, I mean, the Reaper got knocked. What the fuck was this? These guys are just sitting here. Yeah, I should just leave, huh? No, I don't know. We have a tank now. What was this? I was behind a wall. What? We lost this. Oh my god, we lost this. Couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. These guys always have triple the kills. Nice. Nice try. Shitty game. The other guy got something like 5 or, I don't know, 15 times the kills we got. Thanks, Blizz! You know, I would like to say it, but I didn't. Thanks, Blizz. I said nothing at all. Thanks, Blizz, for putting me up against that guy who got 110 kills to our 36. You fucking piece of shit, cocksucker developer. Fuck you! Hope you lose your money. Well, I don't pay you, so... You know, I do pay you a little bit. When was the last time I paid you? Let's see. I think it was like 1.5 years ago. What was that, dude? That other fucking DPS, he got like goddamn 19 kills every fucking match. What the fuck is that? Get that fucking piece of shit cocksucker the fuck out of my fucking lobby, assholes. What the fuck's wrong with you? I'll say it in a way nobody else can say it. Get that piece of shit asshole the fuck out of my lobby, you piece of shit cocksucker developer. Get him the fuck out of my lobby. Ruining everybody's time. Totally fucking worthless. Totally worthless experience that had nothing, like not fun, not fun. Like not fun at all. I'm sorry, it just wasn't fun. That guy, every ult, he got 5 kills, and it was like, what the fuck is that? What? On a brand new character? What the fuck is that, man? Why did I go up against that guy in quick play? What the fuck's wrong with you, Blizzard? Get him the fuck away from me. This is your fucking fault, piece of shit developer. Get that fucking piece of shit the fuck away from me. This is a safe space. You put some kind of 55 kill a game rapist against me. What the fuck is this? I got 9 kills. You put some fucking piece of shit with the 55 kills against me. Fuck you, assholes. Fuck you, Blizzard. The fuck's wrong with you, piece of shit-ass cocksucker developer? Well, I don't pay you any money, so I suppose it doesn't matter. Play your free game and call you a cocksucker to your fucking worthless-ass face as you put me up against 55 fucking kills a match. What the fuck is that, man? What did I get? 7? No, not even. Probably 5. I don't know. I don't really care. You put me up against that worthless piece of shit. Yeah, like that team, I'm sorry, I just really didn't like them either.
Your skill has increased.
So I just say nothing. Usually I say nothing, you know, I say nothing.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
Warp drive active.
"55 seconds.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Fuck was this, man? Fuck was that, man? Like, that guy, he had like fucking 55 kills or something like that. Our best guy had, I think, 34. What the fuck was that? Why did you put us up against that fucking guy? Keep him away from me. I say this to you piece of shit developers all the fucking time. Your season rating, your matchmaking rating, your fucking piece of shit fucking MMR or whatever piece of shit brain dead developer thing you're on is fucking terrible. Fucking terrible. Like, what was that guy? See? It's not that hard when there's some piece of shit like that around. Keep them away from me. Boring losers who only do this. Hey, there's no DPS getting 55 kills. Yay. Feels like a fair match. It's uncommon. Let's get it.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
Oh, that won't work. Fuck was that? Nah. I'll just get off this game. It seems like bullshit tonight. Fuck these guys. I'm not gonna waste any more time here. Bye. Yeah, like, it seems like the game's kind of stacked against me every single match. Man, I just wanted a fair match, and that wasn't a fair match. They suddenly just started raffle stomp, raffle stomp, raffle stomp. Every fucking match. Fuck this game. I'm probably not going to play this game for a while now. You know? I was enjoying this game. It was fair for a few nights. And then my MMR, my SR, whatever the fuck got fucked up is Blizzard sucks dick. It ruins their franchise. And it's just like, get me away from this worthless culture. Keep me away from these pieces of shit who get 55 kills a match or whatever. Fuck these fucking assholes. Why did I ever come across them in the first fucking place? Suck my fucking dick, Blizzard. What the fuck's wrong with you? Keep me away from these people. You have the power of matchmaking. You don't have it, though. You don't have it. Your AI can fix it, but you don't have that. You're fucking stupid. You do deserve to lose your IP in your games. Sometimes it feels fun. Other times it's like, man, like, no matter what I do, they're going to get 55 kills a match. It doesn't matter how many ults I do or how many people I kill or how much I heal or anything like that. Guess I'll just go play something else. Fuck you guys. Suck my fucking dick. I'll go win a Fortnite match while you fucking tell me I'm bad on Overwatch. You suck dick, assholes. You suck dick at design. You're fucking problematic design, man.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
I'm just trying to have fun. You keep stacking the decks against me because I win once in a while. You suck dick, developer. You don't deserve my money, and I haven't paid you in a long time. I've never spent a cent on Overwatch. Never. I'm definitely not ever I'm not ever spending a cent on Overwatch, you understand? Your treatment, man. Your fucking treatment is you just stomp me in over and over again. DPS, you either suck dick on my team or get 55 kills on theirs. And I know what it is. It's some kind of algorithm for people who don't pay for your fucking game. You suck dick. I just never fucking play your game ever again. I swear to God. Each day is a little bit easier to just never look at a Blizzard game ever again. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so negative. But I do, though. This is how I feel about your fucking product. Fuck you.
Your skill has increased. Your skill has increased.
I'm pressing F. Yeah, F. Okay. F is switching weapon. F is my interact key, but it's switching my weapon. Why? Why? What did you do? Anyways, here we go. If I knew how, I would thank the bus driver. They've never said, so I've never done it. I don't know how. No, I'm taking the car to bust the fucking armor. Fuck you guys. And I'm taking this gun too. I heard something. bitch. Fuck you! Fuck you! I don't really mean that. It's just like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, man. You're the one who pushed me. I threw you off in the car because I didn't want you near me because you pushed me way too hard. Oh. Oh, that's not too good. Oop. Ugh. Wasn't there like a thing up there? I think there was. It doesn't matter though, I want out of here. Skycat wants out of here! Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out. Beer. Beer will let me out of here. I have to go to the dump in the morning, it's so annoying. Yeah, I'll take this. Nice. Back for another sequel. Oh my god. I mean, we do like, you know, Mr. Scream Mask guy. You don't like this, do you? I choose not to rage anymore. I just choose not to rage at the fucking things that happen. God damn, you guys were loud for so fucking long. You fought that guy for that long? No, you didn't. You weren't real. It's a lie. It's a lie. You guys bought Scream, did you? Through Embracer or some shit? Your weird corpo stuff is so weird. Well, this thing has no damage. Let's move on now. 21 left, 5 up. I'd take in 1/20th of the match. Probably take 2 of these because it's better. Can I hit somebody? Yes, I can. I can. So let's see if I can hit this guy. I'm a rocket launcher out in the wild. I'm just sitting here. I'm a rocket launcher man. I'm just rocket launcher man. I'm waiting for you to show up so I can come shoot you as you come down this bridge. You're going to think I can't get away because I'm just sitting here, Mr. Rocket Launcher Man. But in reality, I'm going to have a car aimed out the way I want to go, which is like, you know, right over here or whatever. Yep. I was going to stand here and be like, shoot Mr. Rocket Launcher, whatever comes this way. I know somebody's coming this way. I don't know if somebody's coming that way, actually. I thought I saw someone, though. He'll show up. Watch. He's waiting for the storm. Is tense, but I mean, that's Battlefield for you. I better move, because it's like dead as fuck. There's something. What was that? You got to come to me, bitch. Come out of there, bitch. There he is. Thank you. I told you I'd win the Fortnite match, or at least get top 5, you know? Oh, I don't need this. Hurry up. Where's the other 2 people in this fucking match? It's so annoying. These guys are playing a technical game. It's so dumb. Oh yeah, baby! I got him! Going to bed, guys. Sorry, just wanted to go to bed on a win. Can't yell that late. I'm sorry, I gotta go to bed now. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Gotta be up to go do something in the morning. Terribly sorry. I love you guys. Thank you so much. You've been watching Skycatlive. I'm a full-time variety gamer all day, every day, getting those wins. You know what I'm saying? You've been watching Skycatlive. My website is skycat.live. Click on the cast space to donate. Come to skycat.live and click on the cast space to donate. Come to the Twitch or the YouTube. Give me a like, sub, or a follow. I have many thousands of videos on my YouTube channel, which is reflected here. Some have views, some don't. Got half an album that I'm working on and I'm slowly working on. I've got political content. I've got everything. Check out Skycat Live tomorrow, somewhere around 11 a.m., 12 p.m., something like that. Same cat time, same cat channel. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Goodbye. It's good to end on a win. Peace.